Good evening. In the absence of Chairman Hans van der Luft, I will chair this hearing. I'd like to call the Historic Districts Commission to order and begin with our first applicant, Fiona Creed and Robert Roorda from 347 Main Street, who would like to install a cedar fence. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm not sure what the procedure is here.
Well, we have the description of the material, of what you want to do and the materials you submitted, but why don't you introduce it verbally to us, and then after that, if there's anybody from the audience who has anything to say,
okay,
they can speak, and then the commission members will discuss the installation.
First, maybe we should ask, is everyone familiar with the house and its location?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, rather old house that we moved into about 3 months ago. And present condition of the house, or the backyard in particular, because that's where the proposed fence is, there is a fence, not a fence around the perimeter. It's a, I guess you'd call it a Chestnut Hill type fence, which is I think was put up just as a visual screen so that the previous owner about 16 months ago, or actually almost 2 years ago, really didn't want to see some of the abandoned materials in the adjacent yard behind. So that, and there's actually a diagram in the application there, that screen is about tapers from 8 to 3 feet away from the edge of the property. Now, we've moved in, we have 4 young children, and our purpose for putting in a fence is in order to get some kind of security from the adjacent access way that goes to the recreation park between us and the fire station. So as it is right now, the backyard is completely open to the side. Additionally, the garage of our house blocks any direct line of sight from anywhere inside the house to the back right-hand side of the yard. So we'd like to put a fence around the yard to get some security from the roadway, and also to get some security from the vernal pond, which is back and to the left of our lot. On the adjacent property, I'm sorry, I can't think of the surname, Pamela, there's an attorney, Pamela and Rich. They own the land beside and to the back of both their lot and to the back of our lot. So there's a vernal pond there that we'd also like to get some security with regard to the children wandering over into it. So the fence that we've proposed is just a plain board cedar fence, basically unadorned, made of white cedar, with I guess they're nominally 5-inch posts, plain chamfered tops on them. Fairly basic construction, which I think when it ages a few years and becomes more of a silver gray, should suit the house quite well. And actually, we were advised on this informally by I'm not sure if she's I
didn't meet you. I met Fiona.
And your name tag was around backwards when I walked in.
So that would be me.
Yes. Okay, so the fence would be 5 feet in some sections and 4 feet in this section facing the neighbors, but 5 feet along the firehouse laneway and to the back of the lot. The gates are just plain, simple board gates, and with an appropriate hardware, probably just a simple strap hanger type hinge and basic latching. Probably more secure latching on the inside of the fence, or lock, that is. That's about all I got as far as a verbal description of it. I hope I've presented the rationale for the fence clearly.
Well, you have.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience want to comment? Okay, I'd like to open it to commission members for discussion and response.
May I Just one question. On page 1, it says description of proposed work, and you have a picture of the fence. Do you happen to know the height of that fence in the picture?
I don't.
Okay.
To my eye, I would think that's probably a 6-foot fence.
Yeah.
which is-
Yeah, it looks thick.
Usually what they are.
Okay.
I've stood beside some various fences that we could find in the neighborhood, and actually one in Crow's Point, and yeah, 6 foot is a little daunting. Our previous fence on Gardner Street was a stockade fence 6 feet tall, and that's just a little too imposing.
Okay.
Where are you in Gardner? I live in Gardner.
Oh, 286. It's across from Crestfield between Rob Thompson's, the builder. Yeah.
Yep.
Recently sold, and I believe to be clear cut.
What's the distance between, this is on the left-hand side of the house, what's the distance you're anticipating between the rear corner and the location of that 4-foot fence?
Okay. The
And does
rear-
it come between windows, or where does it actually end up?
Could you point it to where we're looking exactly?
Right here, the location of this in relationship to that rear corner.
Oh, to the rear corner of the house. So how long is that line with the gate in the middle of it?
Yes, not this, but that.
Of the garage.
No,
No,
are
not
you
the
on
garage
garage?
side.
You're on the opposite side. I think
Yeah.
right here.
If you don't mind, I'll just actually look right where you're looking.
Yes, that's good.
The distance
Please do.
from here to here.
There is a window and a door between that. See if one of the pictures actually gives us a look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so-
can see it.
It would be, on that picture, it would be, I think, about 2 feet on the near side of the door. So I would say,
So it's occurring right there?
yeah, between the slightly wider gap between
Okay.
the, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it's occurring right there?
Yes.
Okay.
So my suggestion, may I?
Please.
Madam Chair? I understand the fence, and your house is gorgeous, because I have been inside on a house tour at one point.
Oh, okay. 2012, I think, was the house
Exquisite.
tour.
Because of the nature of the house, and if you can correct me, I believe that side presents to the south,
North.
north.
The side
Where
by
was
the fire
origi-
department?
Yeah, but where, no, not the fire department, the other side.
Oh,
That'd be
the
south.
Yeah.
And a house of that age would present itself to the south?
Normally the front entrance. Now, I've been
Well-
told that it was 2 houses put together at one point.
That could be true. I can't comment to that. My concern is where the fence comes into the house. And if it could be moved to the back corner, then the house, whatever its original configuration was, I was reading something about it. That whole side then is available and not chopped up. A solid fence chops it up, even though it's only a 4-foot height. But if you could move it to the back corner.
Gotcha.
Then I
Thank
don't
you
see
very
the
much.
fencing would be a problem at all.
Okay, now, going to the back corner, there's a raised back patio that has a 2-foot wide strip of garden of shrubs. And I think that would actually, placing the fence there would cut across that raised strip. So it makes for a very unusual termination, because the raised bed, which has a stone wall face to it, or the raised patio, and then the bed strip, the flower bed strip along the edges, is, I believe, about maybe 14 to 16 inches off of the level of the lawn. So then you'd have a fence that kind of comes over that, and I'm not sure if it's 3 feet above the patio and 4 feet above the grass level. gets a little unusual there.
It might be something that can be adjusted. I only know what I saw in pictures, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah, I know. Actually,
concerned-
I hadn't thought of it, or I would have included a picture of that
I'm
from the...
concerned about how that side of the house presents itself, because it's all one piece. And it's the house that's most important. But it would still give you, however you adjusted, whether you moved, plants around, not having been in that spot, I can't say to you what your adjustments could be, but if the fence were back at that corner, I don't think you have a problem with fencing.
Louis, would you clarify on the diagram
Moving this back
to there?
so that the house isn't.
I see. Yep.
Isn't
Okay.
sectioned. Another option, I'm just thinking of maybe an option, might be instead of solid fencing, use a picket fencing. Just on that part by the house, not all your other fencing.
You're talking about the gate and...
Just the gate
Just the
and
part.
where it comes into the house. Yeah, right there. Maybe a picket fencing would work. Just a thought.
So intersecting to the side of the house, but doing it with a less solid-looking
An
fence.
open flavor to it as a possibility. It still will keep
Yeah,
kids
I'm
in.
trying to think how visually, if it would really present itself as being transparent. I'm not realize that isn't what we're talking about, but having a degree of transparency, if it would have that visual, if it would accomplish that intent. Not sure.
What type of picket are you talking about?
You just talk open pickets.
Yes.
Maybe that would be more appropriate than, what I'm concerned about is the issue we have with solid fencing that visually stops an antique house from being presented as it is.
This, from my own perspective, I think that this fence, particularly part of the fence, is far enough from the street and is relatively unobtrusive, and I personally don't have a problem with the design as presented by the applicant.
Similarly, I mean, I think this is a great application. I appreciate how thorough it is, particularly for a fence, which is fairly simple. So it answered all my questions, so I have no issue with it as presented.
Thomas?
I would echo Dennis and Michael on this. Yeah, I have no issues with it.
I just want to offer something for consideration that follows up, I think, a bit on what Lois was addressing. And I want to start by saying, I think fences are phenomenally interesting. So I sort of looked up fences in the time I had, which wasn't extensive to do this, but there's a lot of statements about the metaphorical significance of fences and the variability. And I want to extrapolate a bit by what Marilyn Monroe said about a dress. And what she said was, now this wasn't in an article on fences, what she said was, a woman's dress should be like a barbed wire fence, seeing its purpose without obstructing the view. And I don't think it has to be a barbed wire fence to get that outcome. But I think the closed cedar planks for this house and property seem a little aggressive, and if there could be more of a balustrade type of fence that would give you some of the protection that you want, but also allow a little bit more gentleness to the fence in a way that the cedar plank fence doesn't, just to give some consideration to that. I think, I mean, I know they're quite popular, but I think that they're not necessarily complementary to the historicity of a structure.
I would make a motion to approve the application.
I'm sorry, we need
I can't, and I can't hear.
Well, first of all, before Dennis makes this motion, I think since we're missing a voting member, we need to appoint one. So we have Lois, we have Virginia, Mike, and Dennis. Thomas?
I'll be a voting member
Okay.
of this application. Sure.
Okay. Any further discussion or consideration?
I would second Dennis.
I don't think Lois
I
heard the
didn't hear the
motion.
Oh,
motion.
sorry.
No, I just made a motion to approve the application in the form submitted by the applicant.
And it's been seconded.
I think we probably need some further details. Is it going to be a 4-foot fence or a 5-foot
It is
fence?
there.
I'm going to,
It says 405.
I guess in the form submitted, I meant specifically consistent with the diagram, which is the third part of the application, which shows a 5-foot fence running from the right of the garage as you're looking at it from the street around the back, and then a 4-foot fence from the street, the left part of the house, across, and then to the back. And the back fence is also a 4-foot fence, is that right?
I think on there.
Back fence, left side fence, 4-foot height. So as you're looking at it from the street, the fence as it abuts the left side of the house goes to the back of the lot and across to the other side of the lot is 4 foot, and then it becomes 5 foot from that point up to the point where it's across from the garage and then connects across the garage. And a white cedar fence with, Andrea, how do you generally handle the hardware? Does he just show it to you, or?
It's, generally the hardware is pretty standard.
Yeah, I figured it would be.
Simple black
Okay,
hardware, so yeah.
okay.
Dennis,
That's what I meant.
Dennis, can I ask on the question of the back fence, is it an issue, is it a matter of huge importance if it's 4 foot or 5 foot across the back?
It wouldn't be to me, but your application says 4 feet. If you want to amend it to 5 feet, I would amend my motion, because particularly in the back, I don't even think you'd see it from the street.
I'd like to keep it open to 5 feet. The materials, it's been an ongoing back and forth discussion that I like that being 5 feet. At the same time, you lose a bit of sight line into the forested area behind. But it would be able to amend the motion to 5 feet, since it's probably the more contentious of the possibilities than...
For purposes of my motion, I would say either 4 or 5. I don't think it would matter.
I've actually considered having it drop halfway across, simply because I don't like it having any kind of a sloped transition in the back corner. I think it looks more natural to have a stepped transition. So it may actually simply have it drop down across. Okay, anyway.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Abstain?
Okay, motion carries. Okay, all set.
Is there any formalities or paperwork to... No.
I will send you a certificate in the mail. You can feel free to go ahead and order your fence and get things going.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you to everyone for taking the time to discuss this, and
Thank you, Robin.
appreciate the
Hello,
streetscapes we have.
Fiona.
Can do.
Okay, our second applicant called today, and he asked to be moved to, hi. He has to be moved to next month. I'm sorry. So we have a few minutes before we can entertain Mr. Lane's application. So, Virginia, do you want to just talk a little bit about, we had a conversation today, Virginia and I did on the phone, about, again, composite materials. And so we talked about raising the issue.
Yeah, I think it's probably now 2 years ago that there was a meeting, not a hearing, but a meeting among the commission members discussing composite materials. Some research was done by different members, and I don't think there was any determination made, but I think it's both in light of the forests and in light of people's burgeoning interest in using composite materials, I think as a commission we should consider the use of composite materials and come up with policies and procedures either for their use or not to allow them. But I think it's probably in the best interest of everyone, the applicants and us, to reduce the ambiguity around composite materials.
I would agree. I would certainly support that. I mean, I think we're seeing more and more of it. I think, for me, I think it would be important, just as part of the discussion, is making sure we're seeing samples, because I think the materials vary quite a bit, and you can get some good materials and some not so good materials, particularly when it comes to some of the details. But I would certainly support sort of opening that up again for discussion, absolutely.
I think what's really important when you're talking composite materials is moldings, because as we've seen in samples, often moldings are not crisp, and that's, I think, the problem that some of us really have with composites. That's why it's critical to see the sample, because if you end up having a molding where the profile is really tight, like it has, you know, some of the classic moldings where you've got these curves that are quite tight, and if they're not crisp, you lose the importance of that details. It's just gone. And I think in that case, they've got to be rejected, frankly. And when you've got a fake grain, clearly that does not belong on a historic house.
So it's really much more complicated than composite or no composite.
Yeah, because it varies quite a bit. And I think one of the things we talked about before was sort of flat stock and trim boards and things like that are a lot less obvious in terms of whether they're composite or not. But as Chuck is saying, once you start getting into the details, like the railings we looked at for the project at the beach there, you know, there could be a big difference in terms of what those materials end up being. Depends on what they actually can buy. And the materials that they had and the samples they had were nice, looked good, but there's some cheap stuff out there that just doesn't cut it.
I think we'd also have to discuss a composite that isn't painted looks very different than a composite that is painted. I prefer painted myself, but a lot of people prefer not to paint it because once it's painted, they'll have to maintain that. But I find that it can be deceiving to have a composite material on a house and paint it and you don't know otherwise. There are some out there. And I don't know if this would change our policy on windows. When we're talking composite, again, are we just talking about the flat stock and some of the moldings, the trim details, or is this going to get into balustrades for decks, decking material? How far does it go? Or is it on a case-by-case basis?
Based on the materials people are submitting.
Right. We've talked about seeing samples. Well, how would we feel about a composite deck?
Yeah.
We didn't feel good.
Right. And in that application, correct, yeah.
The other is the, how do they wear over time compared to wood?
Yeah, the darker, if they're painted darker colors, they don't hold up well, because what happens is your sun absorption of the material will make them shrink and expand, and in some cases start to warp. So we'd have to be careful about that as well. It's really, and it changes from manufacturer to manufacturer. Some of them absolutely, they give certain percentages of what color.
Is the test data from the manufacturers available readily on these different materials with like UV absorption and that sort of thing?
It's a lot of reading.
A lot of reading.
Yeah, and there's a lot of manufacturers. And some of them are not PVC based. They're not a polyvinyl chloride. Instead, they're a foam that's been molded and is very lightweight.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have literature, or we did look to some towns, didn't we, to see who's doing things well in?
I think, if I remember correctly, the conclusion was pretty much that it was on a case-by-case basis that these materials were approved in all the towns that we looked at, and certainly on the listserv for the Mass Historical Commission, there is always a lot of talk about that. And pretty much everybody's sticking to the wood standard, except in cases where, as we have approved, water tables, something that touches the ground or might be susceptible to water damage over time. And then, of course, the location as well. I remember we talked about that. Depends on how visible it is, but of course, as you pointed out, Ben, you can't, if it's painted.
There are some manufacturers you cannot tell. You'd have to go up to it and put your fingernail into it to find out. It can be deceiving.
So I guess the argument is, what is a better way to protect an historic structure or a building? I think that's something we have to look at. Just keeps coming up over and over and over and over again.
I remember, like, when we looked at all the different towns, there were no towns that had guidelines on composites.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Thomas. And we looked all over the country, too.
Yep.
Yeah, we did. It was not just Massachusetts.
So, I can look back on our notes from that and see what we had to say. And maybe we should schedule a business meeting to discuss that. And like Virginia said, have a policy that makes it clear.
Yeah, even if it's a very individualized approach to the issue, to have something that lets people know what we're thinking about in relation to it in terms of their applications coming in.
Because we're fighting a constant battle. Yeah, I hear it every single day.
And the products, they're obviously putting a lot of research and development into it, so we're going to continue to see more and more requests. And they're
That'll
getting
help us
better.
out, too, if, depending on what the development says, the R&D says.
I thought PVC leached chemicals that were unsafe.
So there is a recycling program. You can capture all the sawdust and bring it to collection bins, but the manufacturers support it. Most of the manufacturers support it, but your local distributor or retailer has to have those collection bins. I would say most of it ends up in dumpsters, any kind of scrap. I can't speak for the leaching. I know there's a collection.
So, well, that gives us a thumbnail direction, thank you, and we can go forward from there.
You need a business meeting. and some research.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or we can pull the old research.
and we can pull the old research.
That's a lot of stuff back then.
That was a lot of
That's
stuff.
right.
Matt,
Did a
well,
lot of
move on
reading.
forward from
I mean, we
that.
all participated researching different towns and, yeah. It'd probably be good to review that first.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to 676 Main Street. Mr. Lane? Good evening. Good evening. We've read your materials, but if you
Okay.
would tell us what you would
Yeah, I
like to
think
do.
I can make this brief. We have on the side of our house, along our driveway, about 40-year-old probably picture window, and it is starting to deteriorate and need to be replaced. And we would like to replace it with 2 double-hung windows paired with a center mullion separating them, so that we can have some ventilation in the house instead of a fixed window in this place. And I provided pictures, and using wood-clad windows are proposed. I don't think that this is going to look substantially different afterwards, and perhaps a little more correct than the picture window.
Okay. Anybody in the
And we
audience?
won't be amending the outside trim, so we're going to get a replacement window and put it inside the window pocket. So from the outside of the house, the trim isn't changing.
Uh-huh. Okay,
All right?
thank you. Anybody in the audience want to address this application?
Sure. I'm at 682 Main Street. Name is Warren Pelissier. And we are very much... So, go to the microphone. I'm Warren Pelissier at 682 Main Street, and we're both, my wife and I, are in very much favor of our neighbor's plan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commission members?
Just a question on the detail of the window. You mentioned wood-clad,
Well, it's a wood, it's a, maybe my...
so it's wood, it's not clad with anything on top?
Brosco wood window. I've got a cut sheet here for you.
Yeah. Okay.
I like it as submitted. And Mr. Lane's right about it's more historically accurate.
I don't see any problem.
Yep.
I would concur.
I think it's an improvement over the existing, frankly. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Right. Well, understood. Would someone like to make a motion on this application?
Would you like me to?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry, we need to appoint, Ben, would you like to be a voting member on this?
Sure.
Okay.
Would you like me to make the motion?
I would.
I would like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness to 676 Main Street to replace an existing picture window with 2 double-hung windows according to the spec sheet submitted, and the page 2, the architectural drawing by ESB Architecture.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, we have another interlude.
Chuck's leaving, I was going to ask him to sing.
Anything else we need to discuss before we move to the next application?
No, but just going back to the composite, I mean, Should we just resend all of it to Andrea, or she probably has all of that
She has it,
information last time,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could go back, I probably have a stack from
Yeah.
everybody else that
dig.
compiled at the time.
I think we just need to make decisions, where is it appropriate to use it?
I think
And
so,
make it
too.
clear to people, this is appropriate, this isn't appropriate, period.
I agree.
And it doesn't age. And as you said, paint's an issue. And I think if we have that background, then the decisions, if somebody's going to put a pillar up, that bottom is going to be a problem. Whatever they make it out of, it's still going to be a problem. So.
I think we do permit that now, right? Bottoms of the...
Yeah. I'm just using that as an example.
Okay.
But we also did,
So maybe that becomes the point of the business meeting, where would we approve?
where do you approve it?
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think it's probably, that's where you have to go with it. And that makes it a lot more simple.
Yep.
Not that there won't be arguments about it, but it will make it more simple, and then it should be put into our general guidelines, so people actually know.
Well, and I think if we explicate the rationale for what the policy and procedures are, it gives people it gives people more information about this is obviously why we're doing it, rather than just we think this is the way it should be done.
So is the proposal to approach this more, rather than on a case-by-case basis, but we would say, well, we allow it as, if it's in contact with the ground, we allow it at the water table, we allow it, so we come up with a list of those areas that are deteriorate prematurely if they're anything but PVC? Is that what the commission's suggesting?
Yeah, and I think you could just limit that to 3 or 4 places.
Right.
And then you could say any place beyond that would have to be approved on an individual basis. But the places that constantly would be deteriorating, you could list those as, the 3 or 4 places that you would approve all the time.
And I think we'd have to be specific about the type of material. So if it's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
flat stock, and pending submittal of samples, so at least if we can identify those locations, but I still think sort of an asterisk with submitting a sample, I think is going to be important, because who knows what it could actually be.
Makes a lot of sense, too.
It would, certainly as a builder, it's helpful to know. And I appreciate being able to have a synthetic kick at the very bottom of a step, because that's the first thing to go. And that's what you get a call back on. That's why the commission is here, but those are things that the builders and homeowners worry about.
So we should invite builders to the business
To the business
meeting
meeting.
and hear about it.
Has the commission in the past approved certain, I have in my mind that it's approved certain windows, for example, like specific products. Have we done that? Because which would lead to my question, are there some brands of composites that the commission could say, we've looked at these and we approve these, like AZEC jumps to mind just because
Right.
I know it's PVC based and it's relatively high. Have we done that in the past?
I don't recall. I
No?
think the
Okay.
one
And maybe you
challenge.
can't with all the
Yeah,
changes continually.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it, because it
Okay.
just changes. And in theory, it gets better, but
Yeah,
you
but
never
who
know.
knows? You're right. Okay.
I think the differences, Dennis, were as the applicants came with particular windows in mind.
I
I think
see.
that's where
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so we are all set to go back.
can we?
Let's see, what time is the next one on?
7:15, isn't it?
7:15. We've got a few more minutes. I think we have to wait. In the meantime,
Oh, yeah.
so you can just, Hans will appreciate it, I'm sure.
He had surgery.
Get well. Yes, we do want him to get well.
I think he's fine. He had surgery, that's...
No one tells me.
I haven't spoken with him. It was just text message, and then I left him a voicemail today, so hopefully he's doing well.
Don't read what I wrote.
Why?
We're not going to read what you write either.
Virginia,
I always look for inspiration from what others wrote.
Virginia, so that we can keep the folks at home from getting bored, would you like to talk about the Heritage Museum and how things are going and when people can expect to see it opening again? Virginia, for those of you who may not know, is the president of the Historical Society. So,
Well, all good things come to those who wait, is the motto. But there was a opening last evening for merchants in the downtown area to see the museum, and I just got back from Nantucket, so I wasn't there, but I understand it went very well. There were a number of people, and that it went very well. On June 25th, Sunday the 25th, from 3 to 5, there'll be an opening for members of the Hingham community to come into the museum, see the building, and it's also an opportunity to celebrate the work of Sally Weston as designer, Mark Cullings as project manager, Mike Studley, Peter Comrack as support team for project management, and Sean Papish for the landscape design. So it's a twofold, I should say, event. And the building will not be ready in the sense of all put together, that's for sure. But we thought it was important to be able to welcome people as soon as possible. And then on November 18th, there will be what's called a festival opening, perhaps, a gala opening, but a grand celebration for the museum and for the building as well as the museum, to launch what the building is allowing us to do, which is to really expand the programming for museum-type activities. So it's an exciting time. It's been, it's been very heartrending to know people's contributions over the years to this project. It has been absolutely astounding what people have contributed in all sorts of ways, and we're very grateful.
thank you.
Do you want me to add something?
You can, if you'd like.
I am the membership coordinator. And not only are some members of this board behind in their overdue memberships, but I would invite everybody in this town to have a membership into the Heritage Museum and support it for all of the efforts that the people have made, but the efforts that are being made to incorporate our history, our kids, our school department, Bear Cove Museum. It's one big community, and I think it's going to be spectacular. I've been unpacking boxes for several days, setting up the computers, catching up on a lot of my notices, and I just invite everybody in the town to join in because it is going to be a great place to visit. And the new gift shop under Susan Achille, spectacular. You'll find a present for everybody. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
Okay, Lois, thank you.
You'll get my membership tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, that worked.
One down.
All right, so let me just do this and we'll resume.
I can continue. But you might not want it.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Right, we're ready to roll.
So I would like to invite our next applicant, Cecil Adrian Beauty, to come up and present their request for a sign installation.
Folks.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Rich Humbird. I'm with Roorda Sign Company. We're here on behalf of our customers, Cecil Adrian Beauty. Their new salon down in the Historic District, we had put in an application for using MDO as a product for the sign. The bylaws, I believe, call for 100% wood product. MDO is 100% wood product. It is a plywood. The reason that we use it is because it lasts far longer. It won't warp. It won't split. It's less expensive. It'll last a much longer time. And once it's painted, it's virtually the same as if you just took a regular pine board or cedar board or something like that. So that's kind of where we're stuck. We would like to go ahead and use the MDO. So that's where we are. It's certainly up to you folks, obviously, to determine what we can use. I just feel that that we're doing our customer a disservice by using a regular piece of wood and painting it. It's not going to last as long. Chances are it's going to warp and split after time. So that's basically it. Pretty simple.
Do you have a sample?
I do, yeah.
That's that?
Yeah, this sample here is, it's MDO, but it's got, going to kind of overlook the white on the top and the bottom. That's aluminum, but it's an MDO sample. And again, it's been in the sign industry for years. It's by far a superior product. And again, once you put a coat of paint on it, you can't tell any difference anyways. There are other products you can use as well, PVC, which is a really popular sign product. But we're trying to, stay within the regulations for the product.
So I looked this up. Technically, it is wood.
It's 100% wood.
It's resin impregnated.
There's some resin in it, yeah.
Wood.
But it's 100% wood, yeah.
So are the letters are wood, this is just the
Yes.
background? And then how do you conceal the edge of the MDO?
How do you conceal the edge of it?
Yeah, does that just get painted?
I believe this one has a border around it. We'll put a border around it.
Wood border.
And then once you put the coat of paint on it, you don't.
I used MDO for a sign in the Brookline Historic District on Beacon Street. Great success. It does not warp, takes paint well, so I can highly recommend it.
It's a much better product. It is wood, and as I say, I feel we're doing a disservice to our customer if we use a plain piece of wood that's just not going to last as long.
Let me just back up for a moment. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak before the commission members do? Okay, we'll carry on. We have not approved this heretofore, have we? Pardon?
We have not.
I have a question. Have people requested MDO before?
Yes. Different kind of sign, though. Not something above, was it, I think, a hanging sign? Your hanging sign
The
is
hanging
more
signs.
within your
Yeah.
visual.
A hanging sign is going to be more apt to warp than a sign that's applied to the side of the building, too.
The background of where the sign is going to be hanging, what are those colors? What's the colors
The sign is going to be black
With white lettering?
with white lettering, yeah.
And this background right there?
That's the background. I can actually show you a color picture if you want.
I can pass one around. Here's what's there, here's new.
It's going where a previous sign.
So I would have no issues with it. My only concern would be that, obviously, the white is not a stark white, but more something that's in a softer tone to match the background so that it...
You mean on the lettering?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be it's going to be more of a satin look anyways. It's not going to be a bright white.
Right. That would be my concern. If
So you're talking about more of a taupe or an off-white?
Yeah, more like of an antique white or that we have in the color palettes, rather than but still a white. But yes.
Is there a reason the font on the sign is the way it is?
That's a trademark
It's
sign?
a trademark from the company, Lanza.
Uh-huh.
So we're carrying their product, so when you use their logo, you have to do it the way they design it. The trademark.
Guess they
That's
don't
like
have-
saying it's Coca-Cola. You use the Coca-Cola trademark, that's a Lanza trademark.
A little disjunctive in a historic district.
I'm sorry. So this is not the lettering. It would be.
The Lanza,
Kind of lettering?
Lanza, yes.
Oh.
That's their trademarked.
What is the adherence requirements to the trademark lettering? I mean, is there any variability that the company allows?
I'd have to contact them and find out.
Mm-hmm. Other comments?
I have no comments. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, that's all right.
Lois?
Well, I think if we go with the MDO, is setting a precedent at the moment, but maybe it's like a first step towards looking at composites. So I wouldn't jump out and say that product can't be used.
Well, we will be setting a precedent.
We are.
And is that something we want to do since, I mean...
Everybody else has a wood sign.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true. I really don't want to go there, but that's not necessarily true.
The only thing is that not all of the downtown is in historic district.
understand that.
So we don't review all of those signs.
I understand
So,
that.
yes, and there probably are, I'm sure there are.
I mean, it is a wood material. I think once it's painted, it's probably, the end result is probably going to be a better end product. And I think this is, kind of pursuant to that conversation we had before about some of the other materials. And maybe if there's a concern that the motion is sort of addressed that way for this particular product.
Addressed in what way, Mike?
Noting that this MDO is sort of for sign applications. as opposed to sort of trim or siding on the side of a building or something like that.
I can say that MDO has been used in applications where, this is not in sign applications, but in applications where someone has a bay window and there's a series of panels underneath. There's really no other product other than PVC that you can use as a background as you apply your various molding. So because MDO is wood-based, I can assure you it's been used.
The other thing, if you want to put it in a different perspective, the difference between pine and oak is no different than the difference between oak and MDO, or MDO and cedar, or, I mean, when you say wood, you're talking about a lot of different products. That table's probably made of oak. But you're covering a whole range of possibilities. With MDO, it's a wood product, and as I say, it's been around in the sign business for a long time, and as I say, it's going to last a lot longer. It's going to look a lot better. You're just not going to get in 5 years' time. You might have splits and warping and all that on a plain wooden product. So it's. I mean, I believe we're kind of cutting hairs here, but I feel that what you're gaining by using this product is far superior to what you're trying to stick to by using the term wood.
Yeah, I don't mean to be adversarial about it, and I don't understand it. I don't understand the product technically, so my question is rooted in that plywood is wood and mahogany is wood, and yet they're quite different. And this to me looks like strips of wood or wood put together,
Veneer.
wood pieces.
The veneer.
Yeah,
And it's done that way.
like it's a compressed wood.
It's not
Almost
it's
like
not
particle
compressed.
board.
No, it's not particle board at all.
No?
Particle board is particles. This
Yeah.
is wood. And what it is it's a layer of veneer, and it's built so that you have grain going this way, this way, this way, this way. It strengthens the wood, gives you the exact same end product, but it's going to last a lot longer, and it's going to behave a lot better. We're not taking wood and grinding up into little particles and making particle board out of it. Particle wood we would never use, but that's just plain wood. You can see it here. So I feel that we're kind of within the guidelines, and we're doing our customer service, and I don't think we're being too, I mean, if it was PVC, then that's a different story. I can understand that, but.
The sign is not carved, it's painted, correct?
Painted. Yep.
And what kind of wood are the letters?
It's all it's painted,
It's all painted.
It's a flat surface.
Everything is painted, yeah. No, they're raised letters.
Oh, forget what I
Raised
said.
letters, I'm not sure what kind of wood it is. It's probably, I'm not going to say it's oak. I'd have to check into it, but I know it's 100% wood, what we use. We use different products for, wood and raised letters.
What's the border? Is that painted on, or is that a piece of wood also?
There's a piece of wood that goes around it.
All right,
It's painted, yeah.
all right, thank you. That's,
Well,
Got
the
a nice
letters
sharp-
stay on.
Adhesive. Actually, what you do is you drill holes and then you put screws in, and then you put adhesive on it. And so you've got the screws and the adhesive that hold the letter to the base. Yeah.
Well, other comments?
The only two people on the commission that are familiar with the product approve of it and speak highly of it, so I'm swayed by that, and I would favor it.
Well, we need somebody to be another voting member. Maybe Thomas, would you do it?
Sure. I'll be.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure.
I think Mike offered to do it earlier
Oh, sorry.
because he wants to add
Yeah,
comment
the
or two.
MDO. So I'd like to make a motion for a certificate of appropriateness to 22 North Street for a new business sign, 18 inches by 96 inches, made of MDO. MDO approved specifically on this project for the purposes of building signage. Color of white lettering to be selected from standard historic colors.
And Andrea has that palette, is that, so he should...
I do, although perhaps if we could just work together and
Yep, absolutely.
do that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I'm going to recuse myself from the last hearing.
Okay.
Is Sally here? I'll look.
What's that?
Yeah, I think she's right there.
The sign that I was involved with, they even carved into the MDO.
And they expose the layers?
That's right.
And it has
No problem.
And it has a material. Is that where it's gone?
20 years ago.
And that's the thing, because it's wood-based, builders make the assumption that it's okay. And then you use it as that substrate.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a technicality. It is wood.
It's one of those things.
But, you know, if it's working that way.
It's very good as far as warping.
Yeah, there are no real viable solutions like plastic. And that's not a good thing, because the field can be so large, the plastic construction. So I much prefer the MDO.
Most people do. It's got a good
Great durability, good.
track record.
But I know that's not why you're here. You're not here for pets.
But you know, it's good to have people on the board the way they are.
Yeah, it's great that you had.
That cleaner sign was a great sign. The cleaner sign was a good sign.
Yeah.
Gold leaf, yeah.
Yeah. Logos are tough.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta
Yeah.
feel for the homeowner, I mean, business owner.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Should I go ahead?
Go right ahead.
So we're here, we were asked to build a model, but just to remind everybody of what the project was about is really the Pelissiers have done an addition to the house back here and a couple, the mudroom and things. And then we came and asked to do a new garage. And so what we're asking for is there is a little building on the property right now. The front is about 11.6 by 16 feet, and then it has a little rear addition to it. The front part is older, the rear part is not. The Pelissiers are looking to do a new garage so that, something closer to the house. And so I know that there was talk of maybe trying to save this little building right here, so we can talk about that. I think there were comments last time that it felt very tight. We know that we have a setback issue here. We're trying to keep the garage as far away from the existing as we can. This is about 4 feet, so we will have to go to zoning, we know that. But we're coming to you first to get approval for the building. You'll see on the model, we had sort of started out with kind of a more barn-like idea. I think Hans had asked that we kind of look at different options, and so I just want you to know that we did, in fact, look at options when we started. Looking at a barn-type scenario, and then, looking, and I think in your packet there are pictures of the existing garage, and it's, a very understated little one-story garage with a little passenger door on the right. And so really what we were looking to do is to build a garage that really, excuse me, if I'm going to take this off, can you take that off?
Sure.
Build a little one-story garage, really, that kind of emulated the garage that was there. We are looking to put a little bit of storage on the second floor because the Pelissiers have the house that is here, you can imagine the existing basin is a little damp, and the rear addition, believe it or not, you have to go outside to get in. So to be able to go up to the second floor of the garage would be nice dry storage. So again, we're trying to keep the garage low. The house is about 24 feet high, and the garage is about 22 feet high, but it sits about a foot lower than the house just because of the way the grade works. So we did really look at the site plan again, built the model to sort of play around with the garage. And originally when we came to, we had the garage sort of in line with the front face of the mudroom. And after kind of moving things around, we sort of feel like maybe if we push it, we did look, originally we looked at here, but that was very close. And I have pictures, and I think you do too, of there's a beautiful ledge outcropping and a beautiful tree. And we didn't want to lose that. So this was not a good place to put it, even though we might have been able to meet our setbacks and things. If we put it way back here, it's going to have to be about 100 feet behind the house to be able to turn around, because we have to have 20 feet in front of the garage, a turnaround, and then be able to go out forward. I mean, half the reason of pushing it back a little bit is to be able to turn around. I think we all know how difficult it is to get out of Main Street. And so the idea was to push it back a little bit so you could turn around. These are 2 existing turnarounds that are brick. And I think that Robin and Warren would like to keep that brick if they can. And then, again, when we came to, in the first place, we talked about it being almost in line with the mudroom. And now we've looked at maybe pushing it back about 10 feet, which is almost in line with the back of the mudroom, which I think does kind of now open this whole area up a little bit. And it does give them a little bit more room to park here and to turn around either here or in this area here and be able to go out forward. Regarding the building, and again, this is Robin and Warren's, they have to make that decision about cost, because all these things do have a cost associated, but I think Andrea asked me to talk to Jim Gordon about moving that little portion of the building. So he did get back to me today. He can do it. It's a little more difficult than if you have a floor in a building. It's easy to crib it up and put steel beams underneath with floor and move it. Here you have to kind of put a beam through the building and hold it up with the ceiling ties basically and move it. But I think that's for Warren and Robin to decide. I mean, he did give me numbers, and it is doable, but it's probably going to have to be moved quite a ways back here. So, and it would just go on a slab, and the rear would be open, so that would have to be repaired and things like that. But it could certainly be used as a garden shed. So I hope, yeah, I'll pass the model around, and hopefully this will, again, we sort of moved it back about 10 feet. I know we talked about taking this off, so there you go, it's gone.
I was just going to ask.
And,
The beauty of a model.
so hopefully I got most of the roofs right. I mean, again, it's 8 scale, so it's small, but I think by pushing this back in line with this now, this kind of opens this area up a little bit more, and they will be able to have, 2 cars parked here and actually now be able to back out and back out. And they're considering maybe expanding this a little bit, but that would be later on. They have the room to do it, just because they do have 4 boys, so if they're all home at one time, they have a lot of cars.
Yeah.
So, and
Take a look at
again, I
this.
think, the idea that the garage is closer to the house is important, because this is their sort of empty nester home. They don't want to have the garage 100 feet away and have to walk to it. I mean, it's really meant to put your cars in.
Do you know what the height difference is between
Yes, this is
this
24.
and this?
Let's see. This is 18 and this is 22, so about 4 feet. But this does sit like a foot lower, just because of grade, so might be between 3 and 4 feet.
Stole it here, because pass it on.
So I do have a site plan that I printed out just to show you where we had originally the garage was in red, and we pushed it back about 10 feet. Thank you.
Butters here.
Yep.
I think the last time we talked too about, materials being to match the house. I mean, rake details and things like that. We had those in the original packet. I think we gave you pictures of what the garage doors might look like, and, if we have lights on the building and things like that, so.
Okay, before opening up to the, Warren, did you want to say anything before we, okay. Before opening it up to the commission, I'd like to open it up to the abutters.
I'm a butter at 676 Main Street, Charles Lane, and frankly, this addition doesn't really impact me from my side, so I can't find any objection to that. So I would support it.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Andrea Chema, I'm on 688 Main Street, and this would directly impact me. For me, the further in the front it is, the better. And I think I already said for the record last time that we wouldn't love to have windows over there. Yeah, because we have our living room. I don't know if everybody was there at the site. Yeah?
Almost everyone.
Yeah, okay, good. So then you know how it is. And I think it's very high, personally. It's very high from my side because it's so close to my border. And, you know, this is the area where we kind of, so it would almost be like I have a house in my backyard.
We are 90, almost 100 feet away from you. The building is 98 feet from the new garage to her house.
Not from the garage, I don't want to be from the garage, but from the second house, and I don't know if that's 90.
Yeah, from the second house, you're 100 feet or so, maybe 90, 91 feet if we push it back. You're still,
Where's the
well,
house?
95. So there's the one house. So if we push it back, you're about 90 feet.
This is the garage.
Right.
This is my
Yeah.
house. This is where I live
Yeah.
here.
So you're 100 feet away.
This is my dressing room, and this is my
Yeah.
master bedroom.
Right, and this is almost 80 feet away. So,
Okay, I'm not concerned, you
yeah.
know, I'm just concerned if you ever sell it, that somebody will kind of build a room in there and just then live there. I think it's very high.
certainly.
I'd just like to point out that where I live, I am at a lower grade than this home, and I was here to testify about this expansion, and I think 10 windows were added in this new addition here with no landscaping to block them or anything, so I'm confused that privacy is a criteria of this board, because it wasn't discussed when I was protesting how, I mean, literally, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 windows, looking at all of the kitchen, every important room in my home. So I think it's unfair to disqualify this building because a window might look upon another neighbor. And I should point out that you testified in favor of them adding all these windows.
No, I did not.
You did.
I didn't
You testified in support
I wasn't
of
asked
this.
to testify for any windows.
Well, you testified in support of this proposal, and it included...
I should mention that we are 25 feet away from the property line on this side. I mean, we could be 15, so, I mean, you know, that would be legally, you could build to 15, so we are another 10 feet away.
But what you have done, if I understand correctly, is within the parameters of the setback and the property line and so forth.
Right.
So that where there's a difference is in perception of privacy rather than the criteria for privacy in relation to the structure, it seems like.
There is quite a large planting area, too. I mean, we're not talking about this side of the building, so we should really go over here. But I do have some pictures even standing in the little garage today, and I apologize for not printing them out. I meant to. But even standing in the garage, there is a fence along here, which I would think would be kept on the stone wall. And so if you're standing inside, you can't even see Andrea's house. So.
You, at one point, sorry to interrupt, but wasn't there some discussion about eliminating some of the windows on the side, or did you decide against that?
Well, we did, but I think architecturally, it's kind of odd to have a building with no windows on the side. I mean, the one thing is that one window on the second floor is south-facing. So, I mean, just to have sunlight up there is kind of a nice thing. I mean, that, again, is Warren and Robin, but, well, if you take that off, yes, that, I mean, it's up to them, but I think personally from an architectural standpoint, I would think that windows would be pretty normal. And again, when you're standing inside the garage, and I'm thinking that the windows are probably going to be about where those windows are set right now, you really, you can't see really much of anything. Let me just, I'm standing in the garage, that's the garage window, and you're looking out at a fence You know, that's inside. I mean, so she can't really see.
This is inside the house?
Inside the garage, the existing garage.
Existing.
So, Mr. Collins to the chair. Yeah, so I'll show you. But he really,
And that's in the front. I have a fence in the front.
Just one moment, Andrea, until they all see it.
if you want to see. But, you know, I don't think you can really, if you're inside, from those windows on the first floor, they can't see you at all because there's the fence and there's a lot of landscaping.
Yeah, but that's in the front, that's very much...
No, this is the
front.
side.
Yes, of course, but it's here. I have a fence here. This is the fence. This is the fence.
Right.
Everything here is only greenery, and there's one tree here, but here the greenery just goes down here. It's not up here. It's down here. And it goes, and then there are trees here and here on my side. You know, there's one in the corner here, but this is the lowest part of the greenery.
If I could make a general comment, at the risk of sounding a broken record, and I know I do. This is a commission of limited jurisdiction, and our charge is to assess a structure and its impact on the historical nature of the neighborhood. And I agree with the gentleman that abutters' concerns over privacy, while they may be very legitimate to the abutter, I don't think falls within the purview of this commission. And I think we should remain focused on what our task is under the law, which is to apply the standard we're supposed to apply. I mean, neighbors have to get along with neighbors, and that is going to play itself out in whatever form it plays itself out, but I don't necessarily think that we are the arbiters of that.
I think, Dennis, that we were hearing this discussion in the spirit of wanting full disclosure of everyone's concerns as abutters and so forth. But, you know, your point is taken. May
I add?
Yes.
I would agree with Dennis in a different way and say to you, while we appreciate people's input, and many times a butter's input is valuable, our goal is to present these antique houses and respect them. It's not about, it's about people, but it's not about how to make everybody get along together. It's about where the garage is, where the house is, the houses on either side. Are they being presented with their due respect for when they were built? And I think that's the important part here. You've addressed issues that I think we asked to be addressed. There was moving it back a little bit, or a lot, but you moved it back. And I think I agree with Sally that architecturally, we don't want a funny-looking wall on one side. I guess this is why they make curtains.
Well,
Very true.
I would also say, I mean, privacy concerns generally are addressed in the zoning code and by way of setbacks. And that's an application that's going to have to be made to another town board, but that board is not us.
If I could comment on sort of the subject that we're talking about here, which is in part, and I know certainly some of my comments that were made last time was about moving this building back and giving that space and breathing room. And I think the fact that you've moved that back and opened that up, I think certainly improves this situation. And, you know, I think, I think in the removal of that dormer, I think they're all improvements to this application.
Ben, Chuck?
I think the removal of the dormer is important in helping the scale. And the new proposal that you gave, which was basically to make this more like a barn, more like a 1.5 story in front, I think that starts to compete with the original house. So I think without the dormer that we saw as like the first phase, is good not to have that. I think the spatial relationship between the placement of the garage as we now see it is better with the houses. Where they were closer together, I started to look pinched. This, I think, opens up that area, and I think that's a plus.
I like it. I like the fact that you moved it back. I think the scale makes sense, especially from the street, which is our jurisdiction. The dormer, I have no opinion whether you use it or not. I do like the windows on the side. I think it would look odd if you didn't have the windows, and we do have to look at that as part of our purview. In terms of the abutter and concern about future, should you sell the property and someone else take over the property, that new owner could not condition that space without going back to zoning because of its proximity to the lot line. So somebody can't just move in there legally. And it's a garage, so its use is infrequent.
Yeah. It's an accessory building. I mean, yeah.
You know, I think, thank you for doing the model. I think it does help. I think, if I understand correctly, you've moved it back as far as you can without affecting the ledge there. And I understand that, you know, and accept that. Even preferentially, I might feel differently, but one has to be realistic about it. And, you know, I do think it's more favorable to the streetscape. I think the absence of the dormer is more favorable to diminishing the dominance of the garage. And I agree that I think to have a wall without windows in that outbuilding is not good for the streetscape either, frankly.
It's Pennsylvania. They do it everywhere in Pennsylvania. If you drive near Pittsburgh, you'll see all the houses with no windows on the sides. It's very odd, but...
Right. Yeah, it's...
Could I ask, oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
I was going to ask one question. I know there was an option on that side window, whether it was the small one or the tall one. Which one is the one that you're looking for?
I think you prefer the bigger one, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to have something there, and I agree with you, Ben, if in the future someone is going to use this in a different form, they've got to take that up, and you know, you can fight that one forever. So what we were attempting to do was to reuse a window that was on the property, and we were going to put that very small window up there. That was not very well accepted, and it also does not have the light that we need to come in from that side. So if we're going to have a window there, it should be a window.
Anyone else want to address issues? You ready for a motion?
Voting members.
Would you join the voting membership?
Sure. Yes.
All right. Okay. Who would like to make a motion?
Let's make Mike do it again.
Thank you. Mikey does everything.
Mikey does it.
All right, fair enough. I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness to 682 Main Street for the demolition of existing garage and construction of new garage based on drawings dated...
Excuse me.
Yep.
We're hoping to save the small version of the existing garage.
And is that the portion in the rear?
That is the portion to the...
In the front.
In the front and side, yeah.
Okay.
The oldest portion. So...
Like to amend the motion to retain the front portion of the existing garage for relocation, approval of demolition for the rear portion of the garage, new garage plans dated April 19th, 2017, along with elevations dated May 11th, 2017, and revised site plan submitted today's 6/15, today's date?
Yes.
Which relocates the garage 10 feet further back than the original application. In regard to other details in the application, the right-hand side elevation will have the larger window on the second floor, the 2'8" by 4'9" window in lieu of the smaller reused window. Large dormer on the front of the garage will be removed. All siding and trim to be wood. All windows and doors are wood. Colors to match existing house. I think that should be it.
Could I just, am I allowed to add something, or if you could add something, is that we will certainly make every attempt to move that building, but Jim Gordon hasn't seen it. So, I mean, I trust him that, you know, he probably can move almost anything, but he said, I can't tell you until I really see it to say absolutely. So I just want to, you know,
Well, yeah, I think, and Andrea speak otherwise, but I think it is, before it comes down,
Yes, yeah.
let the board know what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. If Mr. Gordon feels like he can't move it and there's no possibility, then if you could notify me and then...
Yeah, he just couldn't get there
later.
today. He was nice enough to call me back today, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you for the molly, Sally. Made a difference.
Is there any further business before the commission? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Stand adjourned.